Welcome to the Writing Community Chat Show. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Writing Community Chat Show. I love coming back to this show, and it's a hard week for everybody to get through. Going to work, doing all these regular things, and then suddenly the show comes along and perks me up, gets me ready for the weekend, and I hope it does the same for you guys. Lovely to see you in the chat. Let's have a little look and see who we've got tonight. Brandon is in the house. Hello to you, and he says, "What are we all drinking tonight?" Used to be a beer, in fact, on the Friday night show, and you can see the lovely chat show beer sat up there. Not too many of those left, unfortunately. Anya says a tequila. That's no surprise, Anya. And to be fair, Brandon does say it's 2 p.m. and I'm still at work, so coffee. So thank you all for joining, and hello to Kevin as well. Nice to see you here. I know we've spoken on Twitter in the Twitter space world. That is still going on, Twitter Spaces. I'm not sure if you've used it. If you have, especially in the writing world, please let me know. I'd be interested to know exactly if you can use that for a writer's platform, promoting writers, that sort of thing with the Twitter Spaces, because I know TikTok has definitely become a thing for us authors as well. There's a few more authors within our community that have joined the TikTok world. So, fruit smoothie from Linda, hello to you, welcome to the show. And it's 3 o'clock here for so late. It's later tonight with the drinks. Definitely, I think we all deserve a drink at the moment, and I'm not one to bang on about politics and world affairs, and I'm not going to start now, so we're sticking with the positives. On not so positive of a note to start with, by the way, tonight, sorry, coughing, I'm not sure why. Tonight's guest hasn't shown at the moment. That is unfortunate, but things do happen in life. There could be a mix-up with that. I'm not sure there is, but there could be. So all benefit of the doubt, tonight's guest may turn up, they may not. So what I'm going to do in old classic WCCS fashion, because chaos on this show seems to be a great companion and always has been, going to send the link out to some people on Twitter. I'll see if I get any joiners, and if not, I will stick it out on a live link to the Writing Community Chat Show Twitter page, and then anybody who fancies coming on for a chat about writing or anything writing based, films, all of that good stuff, they can do. Live TV, everybody. But I really do enjoy the fact that you guys are here in the conversation, having a conversation in the chat, and some of the comments are fantastic there. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to chuck the link there now. If you do fancy it, have a look in the message group. If you are in the WCCS message group, the loyal fans of this show, the link is there now if any of you fancy it. And what I'll do in about 2 minutes, if no one has joined it from that group, I will then send it out to Twitter. Assuming tonight's guest isn't going to show, being, what's the time? 5 minutes into the show anyway. So what I'll do to start us off, because I've started incorporating a quiz into this show, I'll bring this into the front of the show for you guys, and I want to see some answers in the chat if you guys have got them, and we'll see if we can get a little winner on the chat there. So I'll start off. It's a movie-based quiz. That was for tonight's guest because she was into screenwriting. By the way, we still talk about tonight's guest, Sarah Alderson. She's written over 20 novels, which is incredible. Bestsellers included in that list, and has a pen name where she writes romantic comedies, just romance novels. And her book, The Weekend Away, has been optioned, and that film is dropping on Netflix next Thursday, a week today. And that looks absolutely incredible. The trailer for that genuinely gave me goosebumps. I'm not sure why, but it did. And it looks a really interesting story with a lot of dilemmas in there. I'm pretty sure that there's a big twist in the end of that book as well, which we absolutely love, especially with a psychological thriller. So let's get the quiz on the way. And the first question I want to see answers to in the chat is, where are we? Okay. Which movie featured Johnny Depp as a crazed writer or crazy writer? Does anybody know? And I will give you, of course, because I'm very kind like that, some multiple choice answers. We have Secret Window, Misery, The Ghostwriter, or Adaptation. So do any of you know the answer to that first question? Let's have a little look. Okay. Nothing coming in just yet. Okay, question 2. In which 90s movie did Macaulay Culkin, star of Home Alone, of course, play the villain? So this is like a thriller type effort. Let's go have a look for the last answer. Okay, we have a few coming in there. Anya says adaptation. Brandon says secret window. And Kevin says secret windog, or windog with a Q. So I'm not sure that's one, but he has corrected there. And Linda says the good son. So, apologies, that's the next question. So the answer to the first question would be secret window. So who had that right? Let's have a look. Brandon, Kevin, and just Brandon and Kevin. Excellent. So question 2, there are some answers coming in already. Which 90s movie did Macaulay Culkin play the villain? I was going to say widow then. He's not a widow. There are multiple choice answers there. The Omen, The Son of God, the Good Son, Fear, and Disturbia. I'm all over the shop with those answers there. Okay. We have Party Monster was not on the list, so I do apologize for the late categories. The Good Son, and Anya says Good Son also. It is indeed The Good Son. So I believe Kevin's in the lead at the moment with 2 out of 2. Okay. In what year was Gillian Flynn's domestic thriller Gone Girl published? Was that 2012? 2012 again. That should read 2013, of course. Again, chaos on this show, a natural home for it. 2012, 2013, 2014, and 2016. What do you think, guys? What year was Gone Girl published? Oh, man. Right. By the way, when you're answering that, I'm going to stick that tweet live on Twitter and make this show even more crazy and see if anyone at all fancies joining this. Join the writing community chat show. Great TV. As a guest right now, live. Click here to chat books, writing, question mark. Let's have a go and see what madness comes of this. 1 second. There we go. That tweet is out there, guys. If you want to retweet that, it'll be fantastic. Although it didn't tweet that. Okay, so my tweet isn't working either. This is brilliant. Okay, we've got 2. Brandon says 2012. Anya says 2012. Kevin says 2012. Linda says 2012/2013. Let's have a little look at the answer. It was 2013, so that's 1 for Linda. Good point there. Okay, why can't I tweet this? This is fantastic. Okay. Brilliant. Oh, it has tweeted. There you go. It just told me it hadn't. So there you go. Evening. Hello, Sarah. Riding solo on this, and I've sent the tweet out for live viewers. Let's see what happens there. Okay. 2013 was correct, and Linda had that correct. And the next question, who wrote The Girl on the Train? Is it A.J. Flynn, Sophie Hannah, Paula Hawkins, or Ruth Ware? Let us know in the chat, guys. And we'll see if anyone can catch up Kevin. Let's retweet that. Okay. Let's have a look at the answers. Paula Hawkins, Halo says. Let's have a little look. Anyone else in there? Paula Hawkins. Okay. Let's answer that, and then I'll talk about that there. Okay, the answer is indeed Paula Hawkins. Thank you for your answer, Halo. You have correct. Okay, just one more question in there afterwards, but let's have a look at this. Lalai, happy book birthday. It is indeed. Happy publication day. That's fantastic. Let's have a little look at this on Twitter, see if we can pull it up on the screen. Why not? So Lalai has indeed been on this show before. and a fantastic guest, a fantastic member of the writing community. Whopping 52,000 followers, by the way, on Twitter. Okay, let's have a little look. The Blade of Truth, available now. 5-star read. From thrilling ride at the start to finish. So check that out. Let's have a little look at this. See if I can share this to the screen. Oh, okay. There you go. Fabulous cover. And presenting an Amazon best-selling novel. Guys, please go and check that out, especially if you like fantasy, and follow Lalai on Twitter. Her Twitter page is right here. It is at, where's it gone? At Lalai Istro. I'm going to stick that out in the comments so you can see it properly. Okay. Thank you, Anya. It was my birthday. When was your birthday? Okay, there you go. Happy birthday, happy book birthday, or was it your real birthday? I'm confused now. It doesn't take much to confuse me, but I am. Did Mario launch today also? I'm not entirely sure. We got a load of book launches today. This should have been the book launch show, clearly. What else am I going to say? And I did forget to say this at the start, as most of you will know because you're on the Twitter circle there. On this Sunday at 8 a.m. PT time, 11 a.m. ET time, not ET phone, home time, and 4 p.m. GMT time, the second annual Queer Indie Book Awards will be premiered. Definitely check that out. Definitely tune in and see who's been nominated. That the Queer Indie is a massive supporter of the LGBTQ community for indie authors, but also its allies as well. So there's plenty of book nominations in there, and it was a great success last year. Plenty of fun to watch. Definitely check that out this Sunday and see who's been nominated and who's possibly won prizes on Sunday. I'm sure there's very, very worthy authors in there. Thank you so much, Chris. It was yesterday. Book launch or birthday? I'm still confused about this. Thanks for the shout out. No problem. Honestly, I will be trying to watch that, and it looks fantastic as always. Last year again was a hoot. Happy belated birthday, Lale. That clears it up. Happy book birthday, Mario. There's so many birthday things happening right now. There you go. Woohoo. I love Queer Indie. Yeah, they are a fantastic supporter, and their website is brilliant as well. So do check that out. queerindie.com if you want to know that is. Right, let's have a little look at Twitter, see if anyone wants to jump on the show. Lala, you're welcome to jump on with a link and talk about your new book. And same with Mario. And let's see if anyone else random in the world of Twitter will fancy coming on for a chat. And I doubt it because it's probably terrifying. Okay. Yeah, on Sunday, Queer Indie Book Awards. And that is something, I'd love your feedback on this, by the way. I want to put together an actual real life proper full-on award ceremony backed by Kickstarter type funding projects, and I've already had the backing from Ian Ranking, Sarah Pinborough, Mark Billingham, and Arenda Books and some other people as well that would put their names down to want to attend this event, and it would be open to established authors and indie authors to attend the venue, food, drink, black tie event. It should be absolutely fantastic and a great experience, and finally getting to meet a load of people, especially within the chat show community, if it could go in that direction, and that would be a funded project from the community and wider as well. So if you think that sounds like a good idea, let me know in the chat. I think personally it would be an evening to remember for whoever attends that, and who knows, depending on fundraising or ability or sponsored deals, we can get that even filmed. That would be absolutely immense. That sounds amazing. People want to come on the show, but they might get in trouble. Do not put yourself in any sort of trouble, guys, for this show. Trust me. There's plenty of opportunity to come on this show. I'm sure there will be. What a great idea. I think Queer Indie has led the way in the book awards virtually. I think it's fantastic, and I'd love to be able to see that in real life as well. And purely, this show was started as a community a community project, a platform for authors, indie and established, to come and tell their story, personal lives as well as their story that they're writing now and their projects moving forward. So what I'd love to do is to create an environment where we could actually come together in real life. And this show actually next week, this bypassed me completely until I checked Twitter last week. Next week, the Writing Community Chat Show will have been on Twitter for 2 years next week. That means this podcast will be 2 years. It's 2 years birthday for the show next week as well. And the fact is, a lot of the guys in this chat right now, and some of the people that follow the show and tweet often with us, I've known them for 2 years. And I know it's a virtual relationship, but I think that is really supportive when you consider being an author is. And being an author is, a lot of the time you're head in the computer or writing, and you socialize with people virtually. So I think that is a real blessing to be able to say for those 2 years, they become a virtual family. And I'd love to be able to bring that to real life. And just to, those awards, let's be honest, what I would imagine doing is having tickets available for that for indie and established authors. But also the backers of that would be able to maybe raffle off a certain amount of tickets, and it would be like a paid for dinner and drinks and event that would just be incredible. And it says there, Lally says, amazing, can't believe it's been 2 years, you're all incredible rock stars. Okay, Kevin said, I'm shocked, I've never heard of them as a writer of LGBTQ fiction myself. That is shocking that we've interacted on Twitter and that's not got through to you, because there's a lot of guests on this show, and I suppose a lot of you guys from Korea, India have come on the show over time, but probably quite a while back now, because we're rocking on 186 shows, I think, on here now. So that's a lot of people that have come on. But definitely, Kevin, I will tweet you, unless Halo or Mario or anyone else does, about some of that information. But definitely go to the website, queerindie.com, and check that out. Linda, you are welcome to come on and chat. I'm looking for guests right now, or you on about another time. You can come on and chat about your stuff now if you'd like to. Although I wouldn't mind a few people coming on and chatting about a bit of everything. But, we'll see if anyone does take that up. Yeah, someone mentioned in the chat as well, Roku TV is still a thing. Thanks to the Win-Win channel. They're a new channel on Roku TV, and they are promoting all things writing. And they play like playlists, and they promote other shows similar to this. Of course, not as good as this one, I don't think. I don't know. I haven't really seen this. But of course, I'd like to think that this is a good place to go and have a look. Also, interestingly, for you guys that may not have seen this on Twitter this week, I have actually had conversations with iHeartMedia, which is a big company in America, and this Spreaker platform. So I'm going to be moving my podcast from Anchor to Spreaker this Friday. And that's going to open up a world of advertising for me. And of course, I will keep that streamlined towards writers and authors. Absolutely. I don't want to be advertising some weird combinations of, I don't know, shoes to you. There's absolutely no need for that unless you're really into shoes, and then let me know. But that could very well become something that supports this show financially, which will be a huge, huge plus. And that is always going to open the door up for progression in this show. And who knows, more events. The long-term goal of this is actually a book bar business, a place to launch books, a place to write and do book covers and read with beer, of course, and coffee and good things. I think that is always going to have to be off the back of a start like this. So stepping into the world of advertising and building that. So Halo, again, a statement of how welcoming this community is. Halo Scott says, feel free to get in touch, Kevin. I'm at Halo_Scott on Twitter. And Kevin says, thank you. I'll have a look into that. And everyone says, that's awesome. Thank you so much. I really appreciate the good comments here. FYI, we have somebody to chat to. Isn't that nice? So, ladies and gentlemen, let's bring on a guest. Let's bring on Linda. Hello, Linda. Linda's quiet because she's muted herself. Let's see if we can unmute that.
Better?
Yes, hello.
Okay. All right. I'm nervous.
Nervous. We're here
And
for a change.
I am supposed to be at work right now, but I have
I,
20 more minutes, so, oh well.
do you know what? I absolutely love the commitment. I love it when people say they should be doing something, but come on the show or support the show. It's like really cheeky and naughty, like a little school kid would do. But I think it's
Yeah.
brilliant. Um,
Well, I do billing for a living, so any time I can get away from it, I do. So, yeah.
can you repeat? Sorry, what did you say you did?
I work for billing. I actually I do billing for a book manufacturing company. So,
Okay,
super
that's
exciting.
interesting.
Yeah. I've been there 9 years.
Wow.
So,
Uh, Brandon
yeah.
says, "Don't be nervous."
Oh, I'm always nervous. Nervous is my default setting.
Yeah,
So, high
that's.
high anxiety most of the time.
Linda says, "If you need someone to chat for a little bit, I'm game." Uh, guess about the books. So, how are you doing in general? Is in your writing life? How are things at the moment?
Not too bad. I'm currently working on the third book of my mythological urban fantasy series. So it's been kind of a drudge lately, and not the writing part. Well, the writing part is it's always kind of like I think I'm more critical of myself than like before it even goes out the door.
Hmm.
So getting past that point of like, okay, this is not total crap.
Isn't it a battle for everyone to go through that though? I'm not sure.
I think so. I think in a lot of ways it is. I think it depends on how much confidence you have in general,
Mm-hmm.
and that's always something I've struggled with. So like the first books that I had, well, the first book I had, like the trying to get beta readers was really difficult.
Mm.
So you'd always say, does anybody want to read it? And everyone would say yes. You send them a copy, and like 6 months later, they're like, oh, I haven't gotten around to it. Life happens.
Definitely.
So you're kind of like, okay, I still need to keep going, so I can't necessarily wait. So my first two beta readers were technically my mom and dad,
Yeah.
and they were very old school 1945, you know, Boy Scout. So there's like a couple of sex scenes in there that they were kind of like, oh. So I didn't really get like a sense of like, is this
Yeah,
okay?
a true reflection.
Yeah. So you kind of have to say screw it and just go and write what you really want to write.
Mm.
And it's sort of like at that point you're winging it on your own, and most people who've read it have really enjoyed it. There was a few people who didn't, but but you kind of just drive through it and keep going and keep going. And I got the third book and the fourth book, so I'll get those done and get them out there and let the world decide.
Do you know what I always find strange though? And I guess it's not strange because it's the same across the platform of everything in the world. People like or dislike something. And a lot of these authors that I've had on, the main established authors. I mean, Sarah Allison tonight. She was signed by. Let me show you this. Um, Apart from her screenwriting experience and all of these things, she was signed by Simon and Schuster, Hachette, HarperCollins, and Pan Macmillan through her career. And now, even an author of that stature, Ian Rankin or anyone I've had on the show, they've got 1-star reviews as much as we have.
Yeah.
But the thing is, in the same as this show, people love it. I bet some people have turned it on, turned it straight off. But I think you've just got to do what you do, and to a point where that builds momentum, and the people that like your stuff attract.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of the thing where like the one 2-star rating I had, I think what irked me about it more than anything else was that it was just a rating. So
Mm.
there was no review, there was no kind of feedback or input. And, I've read, major books that I just didn't care for. It didn't mean I hated the person who wrote it. I didn't hate the book. It wasn't for me.
Yeah.
And I think everybody's like that, where you're going to have people who are just like, that's not the genre. Well, come to find out, because it was through a book club, and so like 10 ladies read it, and like one person hated it, you know. And I was like, okay, that's totally fine. But she's like, because she doesn't like that genre. And I was like,
Mm,
in a way, I felt bad, because I'm like, why are you torturing this poor woman to make
yeah.
her read a genre that she really doesn't like, apparently? But then there's other things like, well, if it's not your genre, then your feedback is really important to me, because I'm like, I'm not necessarily just gearing towards just one person reading it.
Hmm.
I want everybody to enjoy it. I mean, ultimately, that's the goal. But I was like, I really kind of wanted that feedback and say, like, what do you not like about it? Like, what was it that just said, I didn't care for that. And there's like certain things that go through the first book where someone's not going to like what I did. And I'm okay with that, because it's my
Yeah.
story, so it's like, but if it's something where there's a cohesive error or something of that nature, like that's really important information for me, So I'm like, I don't want to get 2-star reviews, but I want to know where are those hurdles so that I can fix them. So you kind of take the good and the bad, but it was still like I was butthurt for a few days. So I'm
Yeah.
not gonna lie, I was
I,
just kind of like, oh,
you do. We weirdly, we see a 5-star review and go, oh, that's cool, and pass. And you see the 1, 2, 3-star review and you're like, oh, what's this about? And you
yeah,
fixate on that one thing. And again, weirdly, I had a 3-star review on my first book, and a 3-star review is good, but we don't see it that kind of way. And what annoyed me about that is very similar to you. It said that basically, I'm not a fan of this genre, enjoyed the story, not a fan of the genre, marked it down. Well, I thought if you enjoyed it and you didn't like the genre, then that's a good job.
hmm,
I don't know, but it's just the way people are.
yeah.
So I think we've got to, as I said before, believe in what we're doing enough, and we'll find the right people that will like it and read it.
Yeah. I mean, that's
Um,
like, I guess one good thing about me is I'm tenaciously stubborn, even when it comes to bashing my face into a wall a couple times. So at the very least, I'm going to finish it so that I can say that I can leave it with no regrets. Like
mhm.
that's basically what's going to happen, like, it was always really funny, because it's like my husband's always like, well, if you get Harry Potter money, we can do all these things. And I'm like, okay, you know what I want to do? I want to basically recoup the amount of money that I spent on my book covers, on
Mhm.
my editing, on it's like that's my minimum. Like if I can do that, I'm like, sweet, So
Yeah,
like
I think
our kind of levels of like what's successful and what's not, it's sort of like, I just want to basically be able to, minimally make back my money, you know,
definitely.
and because that was like the one thing is like I definitely wanted to make sure that it was edited, because like I have a bachelor's degree in English literature. Guess what? My grammar's suck really bad. So I said I got to give this to somebody else, and I'm like, and like my dad is a really smart guy
Mm.
and electrical engineer. Actually went to law school in his 60s. Is practicing lawyer now, so he's smart. But we didn't see eye to eye on the story,
Okay.
and there was like a lot of conflict going back, because again he was my beta reader for the first book, and so I have like the chapter 9 sex scene in the first book. And this was kind of the thing is like I told my parents, I'm like, okay, here's the copy of the chapter. Read this like I did not write it,
Yeah.
because I can't emotionally go into this moment knowing that my biological parents are going to read this pretty graphic sex scene that I wrote. So I'm like, if I can convince myself that they're reading a story by someone else,
Hmm.
it's like just playing games with yourself. And but he was like, I don't really understand the point of the scene, but I knew kind of like where the characters were going after that point. So like you do a comparison between two separate characters, but what do they have in common? What are their differences, and what makes them different? So like that particular sex scene, which is very dark, um, it's kind of a disassociated sex scene where, and there's no romance in it. then you can compare that to another relationship in the same book where you're kind of having a more emotional connection, not
Hmm.
necessarily sexual, but it is sexual. And you can compare the two. And, there are certain characters where I like to play back and forth, but he couldn't get it. He couldn't get past that. He was like, again, very engineer type mindset where he was like, I don't see what this particular scene does. And I said, well, it basically shows you the mindset of the main antagonist of the story and what he's willing to do to complete his goals in a lack of a better sense. And, but there was like one aspect where I was like, I did not want my mom to read it. And it was more or less just involving a very young child. So I was like, she's going to kill me when she reads this. It's so dark. But she was fine with it. So I was like, huh? But it was one of those things where I had to kind of really fight for what I wanted in the story. And I had to justify it to them to basically say, this is the way it's going to go. If you don't like it, I'm sorry,
Hmm.
but it's going to be what it is. And so, yeah, that was fun. And he still argues with me about it. It was even like the title. He was like, I don't think you should title it that. I'm like, I don't know what to title it at this point. But all the suggestions he gave me were pretty much shit. So, so I'm
Oh, I
like,
love it.
well,
But
between
again,
that and
that's,
that.
it's good sticking to your guns. And I mean, interestingly, had you been signed and your agent perhaps said they don't agree with that, would you have the same reaction, do you think?
I come to the realization that if I ever got option for a movie, or I got option for like a production publishing contract,
Hmm.
as long as they spelled my name correctly on the check, I would be okay with a lot of things.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we look back in the Max Brooks episode and we talked about how his book was nothing like the movie, and he completely agreed. So I'm assuming at some point that conversation happened, that he said,
Yeah,
yeah, okay, you do what you do, just give me the money.
yeah. I mean, it was like so. My dad has well, he writes screenplays, okay, and the only thing that I had ever critiqued him on his screenplays was that his dialogue was absolutely horrible. And I love a good dialogue, like as much as the next person, but his dialogue was so dry, and it was just not helpable. It just
Mm.
really wasn't. So he decides, he's like, how would you feel if I put your books into a screenplay format and enter them into a World Fest competition, which is like a screenplay writing competition here in the U.S. And I was like, now I've copyrighted my book, so I own that. And I said that's really fine as long as I retain the rights of my book. Like whatever ship you're going to sink is going to be fine, because that's him. But it was even like, so I read through the first screenplay and I was like, well, he changed this and he changed this and he changed things that I was like, no. So the biggest conflict that he and I had, and I know this is just like a weird story, but the one conflict that we had is that the main character, Emma, and he was like, I think that she should cry in the second chapter. And I was like, why? And he's like, well, it shows like an emotional connection and she's vulnerable and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay, the short and sweet of it is that she has been a fury for 500 plus years. She lives in a very rigidly controlled society. She's not going to cry because she stubs her toe. So it's going to take a lot. Now, eventually, she will morph out of that robotic emotional sense into, a person again. It's going to take some time. So I'm like, having her cry in chapter 2 is not allowing her character, you to assess her character as a reader. So it's sort of like, if you have your character come into an issue, solve it by the end of the chapter, then it's not an issue. And that's how I've always felt about it. and it's not that you resolve them all at the last chapter, but you sort of show that progression of the character developing, moving towards it. Now, like, so by the end of the first book, Emma is still very constrained. She's very much like, but by book 2, she starts to open up. She starts to talk back. She starts to be getting very angry. And she's a very angry woman. And she's a fury. That's why. But by the end of the 4th book, she will basically be to the point where she will stand on her own. She'll have confidence in herself, to live her life. So I'm like, so basically by putting her in such a weak position, and there's like a lot of fight scenes, and it's one of those things that's like, you're going to have her be a badass, basically ripping someone's heart out, but then she's going to cry because she's emotionally upset. And it's not necessarily like someone died or there's a big conflict, an argument, or anything of that nature. It was just, she had a really rough assignment. She's not going to cry afterwards. But I'm like, those are the only things that, like, when he put it into a screenplay, I was just like, those are the things that it significantly augments the dynamic of the character. So don't change that. And then he decides he's going to transition the prologue, because the prologue is harder to do in a screenplay format. So you kind of need to put the dialogue points in there. And I didn't have a whole lot of dialogue because I don't really care for prologues, but I knew I kind of needed one. So, he puts in his dialogue, and I'm just like, oh no. I'm like, because the one thing is, like, I love Greek and Roman mythology. Like, I wrote a urban fantasy that is strongly based in world mythology. So, so it's like, if you're getting the gods and goddesses mixed up, then that's kind of like, someone's going to know that. Even like when I was in the 5th grade, I learned about Greek and Roman mythology. Like, I would know, like, that Hera is married to Zeus, that, that these things are sort of like the very basic ones. But like, the one thing I wanted to do is I wanted to start to incorporate a lot of other world mythology. So I have like the Jin, I have succubus, I have dragons, Asian dragons. So like right now I'm actually working with someone I know who is actually a shaman from a Shawnee tribe.
Wow.
Because I'm still going to try to incorporate in Native American mythology. And that's like eating an elephant. It really is. And because it's like, okay, what tribe? Like, what subsect of what tribe? Like, what mythology? So it's like, you had to, like, this is for a secondary character. So it's not like I don't care, but it's like, what did I get myself into? So it's kind of like going through, it's like, okay, so it's going to be the Abenaki tribe. Okay, well, what is the character's name? Well, because it's not like, just John Smith. There is a significance to how they name their children. And it's like, you have your Western name, and then you have your Indian name, or your Native American name, I should say. And so now it's like all these things is like, and then you always want to be respectful, because it's like, this is not necessarily my culture. This is not necessarily something that I can claim ownership to. So I'm not trying to step on toes. It was like, even like with looking at the genie, I did so much research as far as like, okay, how are they viewed in Arabian culture? How are they viewed in Islamic culture? How are they viewed, in Middle Eastern culture? So all of these things is like, just so I can say, okay, if this particular deity or supernatural being is at all deified in a current culture, I'm going to step away from it, because I'm not crapping on someone. I'm not. So, after a while you say, okay, well, is in Islamic and Middle Eastern culture, the jinn is not viewed as a benevolent being. Okay, so if I have him as a villain, it'll be okay. So it's not necessarily like, but you always try to be respectful.
Yeah.
But the greatest thing is like you get to learn like all these really cool cultural mythos and all these like facts about, like even like with werewolves, it's like there's a small in I think Romania, how you cure someone of being a werewolf is you have their mother chastise them.
Wow.
And then like certain areas in Europe where you could find out if someone was a werewolf is if you cut open their skin, you could see the fur, and that's how you knew that they were a werewolf. Like stuff like that, I love. And I just geek out. I just really just geek out. So, but but it was one of those things. It was like with my dad, I had to basically say, "This is the line. I'm not going to move past that line, but I will." I always take everybody's input into account, but at the end of the day, it's my name on the book, so I have to be okay with what's in there.
Yeah, definitely. Absolutely. Brandon, there's a few questions in the chat, actually. Brandon says the old classic Star Wars or Star Trek.
Oh, boy.
Mm.
Oh, you know what? I grew up in the house with a big old nerd, so I loved both of them for different reasons. I'm definitely more of a Picard girl than a Kirk. So the acting in that was so cheesy. There was something just wonderful about it. I almost want to say, well, I like Star Wars better, but I like the episode 4, 5, and 6. I didn't care for 1, 2, and 3, but that's just me.
Okay, 1, 2, 3 being the third set of films, or the next set.
Yeah, I guess the prequels.
Yeah, I agree with you on that one. I think
it was hard because it's like you knew what was going to happen to Anakin, so it was just like this big spoiler. You're just like, oh, he's going to be a dick. It was like, oh, like I'm always one of those people. Like if I read a book, I can watch the movie, but if I watch the movie, I can't read the book, because when I'm reading the book, that's when I want that discovery. Like, oh my God, like, so-and-so was the killer all along,
That's
but
interesting.
so it was like with those, it was because I knew Anakin was going to go. I was just kind of like, oh, and again, the dialogue was really special. So
special, good word. I really think that though, with TV and film these days, they just loopholes and just they're not the standard books are in regards to you have to make the story work, you have to fix the plot holes. I think in especially production of things now, because they've been so impacted by COVID, they're just throwing shows together, and I really feel like I watch something and I just go, I can't believe that hasn't been addressed or hasn't happened, and then suddenly it's the end. I'm like, wow.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it ends up being just this huge rise up to have your feet kicked out from underneath you at the end. You're just like, it's so discouraging and so disappointing that I'm like, I don't even want to watch TV anymore. I mean, I think like the last movie that I went to go see in the theater was the second Guardians of the Galaxy. I mean, that tells you, like, I mean, granted, with everything going on, you just, nothing's open.
That's probably a while ago as well now.
Yeah, I think that was, I want to say that was 2021, but I'm not sure.
Number 2, let's have a little look. The trailer was 2016. No.
That might have been
2017.
Yeah, so that might have been it. Yeah, that was the last time I went to the movies, because
that's crazy.
It was funny in my town here, right before the first shutdown. They just spent like a ton of money, put in this huge like omniplex theater, and it was like all bougie and stuff. And like it wasn't even open yet, and then COVID hit and everything shut down. And I think they just opened it, but like nobody's going. Like nobody's going, and I'm not sure why. And I'm like, well, maybe it's just because the quality of movies is kind of petered off, and people are just like, whatever, I mean, I would hope at the end of the day, people are sort of like, well, maybe there's more important things in life, like spending time with the family. I don't know, maybe.
I definitely think that could be a factor, that people kind of just want to get out and do things because they don't know at the moment if it's going to go back in that situation or not. So
yeah,
possibly making the most of the time they've got at the moment.
Yeah. I mean, I think there was probably about a good 8-month period where I didn't see my dad. And I mean,
Yeah.
he lives 20 minutes up the road. So I was like, well, at the end of the day, I'm not risking it, And and I think even like, cause like my family's really tiny, like we're just really tiny. And so it was hard not seeing him for that long, but I talk to him on the phone every day and I
Yeah.
send him texts like, hey, how are you? Good day. Going to work again, you know, and not that great of conversations via text, but, um,
You
you
could
know,
have got him on the world of video calls, couldn't you? I mean, that has really blown up over the course of lockdown. I'm assuming through uh, Google meetings and Zoom and all these
oh yeah.
amazing things.
Well,
Businesses.
it was funny is like, so basically March of 2020,
Mm,
when everything shut down, I had no capacity to work from home. So I was still going in every day, and they were just sort of like IT was like, whatever, she's coming in, it's fine, or whatever. There was really no push to like get me digital. So I was like, I was late to the game.
yeah,
So it was like everybody was like working from home, and 9.5 months later, I'm like, how do I plug this in? Like Zoom, what the hell is that? But
amazing.
you figure it out after a while.
Yeah, it's not that bad, is it?
Now just clicking the right buttons, make sure I'm not muted.
Yeah. So, Linda, in terms of current work now, what would be next work for you? What are you looking at doing next?
Well, I mean, as far as like this series,
Hmm. Well,
so,
or stepping outside of that, I'm not sure.
well, I mean, I got asked this question before, and I'm like one of those people who's so laser focused on my current project. I do kind of like, I have a couple of ideas rolling around that I think are like the seed of a decent story,
Hmm.
and but they're not in that same genre at all. I mean, they would be most like probably thriller related. So I'm kind of like, and for me, it's like it takes me a while to like build that seed of like what's going to happen aside from like
Yeah.
the conflict. You sort of have just like that a tagline. So I kind of have to go through and say, okay, I'm a big thinker. Like I always told my husband, I'm like 9 times out of 10 when I'm writing, I'm just like staring, and that's kind of how I write. I just kind of like zone out. So I have a couple of ideas that would be interesting for out of genre stories. Whether they'll come out to anything, I don't know. I have to like really focus on them. I have the two remaining books for this series. If something happens and I kind of get an additional idea, I have sort of something on the back burner that might be like an add-on to the series, not necessarily directly to the series, a companion novel, I guess that's what it's called. And but it depends on really how I get through because it's weird because it's like I'm very much a plotter.
Hmm.
So I have like this here,
Yeah, I did notice
my
those.
storyboard. So that's my calendar, and that's my cat.
I did notice the cat as well, and I was going to
Yeah,
ask, what is the name of that cat?
her name is Harley.
Harley, nice.
So I was because I read a book and one of the characters' name was Harley, and I loved the name. I was like, oh, that's so,
Mm,
and it's a girl's name in the book, and I'm like, that's awesome. And then I realized she's like the motorcycle. If you piss
yeah.
her off, she will kill you. She is like the most she's like a really pissed off teenager like 90% of the time. The other
Wow.
10% she's a snuggle bug, but that's her recharging mode
Yeah.
in her docking station. We always have blankets everywhere for her.
Mm,
She's not spoiled at all. Um, but yeah, but I do a lot of like, this is my storyboard. I also have a Word document that's my like an outline, and I
mhm.
also have to keep track of all of my characters because my memory is shit. So, um, but I will still kind of leave it flexible enough where I can change things as I'm progressing down the story. And I said, okay, well, oh crap, I didn't address that. So now I have to go back and I work through my outline and I say, okay, I need to plug this in again because I need to pull the reader along with me and say, oh, don't forget about this because somebody
Yeah.
will remember it. And if I don't put it in there again, I'm going to forget. So but it's like one of those things that is sort of like at the end, depending on who I kill off in the story,
Yeah.
is there is a potential for an offshoot book. It's a very long way of saying that, isn't it? I
Hmm.
tend to ramble.
I mean, Anya said that's a lot like my process. Similar. Um, yeah. So I like the idea of having your structured plot, ways doing it. That way, for me, I'm very much a pantser, but then having that plot, but also having an outline to follow as well, because that then allows you to, even though it's structured, to keep those little pieces moving around, I guess.
Yeah. And a lot of times too, because I have a lot of subplots going on, and I have my overarching plot.
Mm,
And if I didn't write them down, I would go down one of these rabbit holes and get so lost where I'm like, oh crap, how do I get back to that main storyline? Because it's like, you're going to meet the main baddie in book four, and they have to get there, and they have to get there sort of in a reasonable sense, and then all of
yeah.
these little subplots have to be resolved at least in end of book three, book four.
Hmm.
So again, it's like I'm a very visual person, so
Yeah.
doing an outline, doing a storyboard, and then I can take the pieces and I can move them around, and I can say, okay, I have too many chapters with this character starting. I have too many with this, and they're all clumped together. So it's like these are all the David chapters. Well, I could have put something else in there.
That's really good. I mean, do you use like a writing software or anything like that?
Mostly I just use Microsoft Word.
Okay.
Um, I've been using the Pro Writing Aid,
Hmm.
so and that's actually been very helpful because I tend to be a very passive writer, and or I have a passive voice, I should say. So, which is always really weird because it's like I remember being in the third grade and my English teacher was like, "You write in a passive voice," and of course I'm like 9. I'm like, I don't know what the hell that means,
Yeah.
and I don't know how to fix it. And apparently that stuck with me. So then that's the nice thing about the pro writing aid is it says, "Hi,
Mm,
this is really past a sentence." And as much as I've tried to research it, it's something that won't stick in my brain, and it's not how I talk. So, um, but it's a useful tool
mhm.
to try to do that. But I've tried other like online software programs where it kind of helps you like organize your characters, your thoughts. You can do your face grabs. You can figure out who would play David. You know, and they do work in a certain sense, but for me, sometimes I can use that stuff as a procrastination tool.
Yeah.
So I have to really gauge myself and say, maybe I should actually open up the story and work on it. So
I do think they've got their place and they are good. And especially with things like that, learning about, they do give the option to learn about things you might not have even noticed that you do, perhaps. But yeah, I think it's the key is finding your own style, isn't it? And I think you've done that with your structured plots and your overarching stories. So yeah, that's great. And one of the questions from earlier from Halo, she has disappeared from the chat a minute. She's busy. Says, Linda, what comes first for you? The title, the first sentence, or the character's name?
um, titles always last. And I know
Okay.
I'm going to answer this in a really weird way, but this is how my
Yeah.
brain works, right? So the title always comes last. Um, the characters' names will come before the first sentence. The one thing that I find most terrifying in the entire world is the word chapter, number, and a blank page.
Mm,
I struggle with that more than anything else. Once I get in there, I can blow through it. And then, because basically what I do is I just barf out the chapter
yeah.
and then come back and try to mop it up and clean it. And then I'll move on to the next chapter. And I usually try to do that because it's like I've got a really good sense of how that one chapter ends, and then I'll open up the second chapter or the next chapter. The problem is I will have that day where I'll just sit there. I know what I need to do.
Hmm.
I know what's going to happen. Oh boy, and it's. I don't think that for me that will ever go away. So it will always be that first sense of you know sentence and the scene and what's going on and where are they, what time of day is it, because there are some like time jumps in my story where it's not like, there's usually like a 2-week period in between each story, so it's progressing through the seasons. So like the first book, it's the dead of winter. Okay, the second book, it's more like it's like early spring. Third book, okay, it's April, May, that period of time. So and then I'm like, okay, well, like spoiler is like, so book 3 starts off with a morning jogger. And I was like, okay, so it's somewhere dark. Okay, how dark is it? At what time in New England for someone to be running? I'm like, I mean, I get up at 5:30 every morning. So I'm like, okay, I know roughly what time it is. And then I'm like, but like when I was writing the chapter, it was October. So now I'm like, oh boy, so it's like, but that scene building is very, very pivotal for me. But so, yeah, so the title always comes last. Then the character name would be what I usually come up with first. And then I struggle through the sentences.
Brilliant. Okay, just before we wrap up, Linda, let people know where they can get your books and find out stuff about you on your website, I guess.
Oh, I don't have a website. I know, I'm evil, right? So both books are available on Amazon, through Barnes & Noble, Kobo, pretty much everywhere, because I go through Ingram Spark. So I get the paperback ebook through them, and then I get Amazon through the Amazon site. It's very confusing. Doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. But yeah, so basically anywhere, and I think it's even like Waterstone, I think I found them there. So they just do this huge distribution list for the paperback and the ebook. But the easiest way is Amazon. And both books are there. So
okay.
It's weird though, because like Goodreads shows my old, because I redid my covers because I don't like my covers, but Goodreads never updated to my new covers. So I'm a little tweaked. I sent them a lot of emails, but they said, oh, it's Amazon. I'm like, why?
Fantastic.
Yeah. So that's basically it. Yeah. So, but I'm on Twitter. I'm on Facebook. I'm not on TikTok yet. So
worth trying. Definitely try it.
Maybe.
So people have some success in there. Okay, Linda, thank you so much for joining me. For you guys that have watched and understood this kind of show tonight, someone has just popped up in the chat. There's obviously been a communication error between us at the moment. This may go on and happen straight after this. I'm not entirely sure, but we'll see if we can work it out. So if you're not busy, you might want to stick around. But Linda, thank you so much for joining me, and I will keep this episode and plug that into the episodes of the podcast as well. So brilliant to chat to you. Honestly, it's great to have you on the show, and I love the support you've given the show over the 2 years now as well. So
yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, it's mad.
I'm stalking you, man.
Brilliant. Keep it up. Thank you guys for tuning into this, and again, might be live straight at the back of this, so we'll see now. Thank you. Bye.